On besides all this. Hello, Ron. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. One minute to air. Ron. Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, but you should have. Just check it.
Good morning, and if I may dare say it, a happy new year in the face of all the adversity facing you and the world. And I'm just back from a couple of weeks in Britain, where the latest scandals about young Churchill, for instance, and ex-Sir Tony Blunt have been accepted with that wonderfully British phlegm and equanimity, by the establishment, that means, that all is well in high places, and that the system works even if the man in the street doesn't quite understand it. And I get off the plane and read up my back newspapers in beautiful British Columbia, and it is gorgeous after Britain, to find that much the same kind of thinking goes on here. That as long as everything is smoothly handled by the establishment, ordinary people should not dare to carp or nag about their particular worries. I'm talking about two cases, and I'm talking about the administration of justice in British Columbia. First, the case of Bill Ritchie, Fraser Valley's social credit MLA, who was accused in an affidavit during the election by one of his party colleagues of influence peddling. The RCMP very properly investigated and recommended a charge be laid. They were supported, as it happened, by a regional Crown Counsel. And then the Associate Deputy Attorney General reviews all the investigations, overrules the regional Crown Counsel, and there are to be no charges laid in the Ritchie affair. I'm prepared to believe it is a correct decision, but I do not like it one whit, because ordinary people, such as you and me, will not be able to understand the apparent contradictions between two lawyers. The whole situation is further confused by the fact that we have an Attorney General who carefully stands back under the present system set up way back in '72 and does not participate in the decision at all. The man in the street, you know, has a fond idea that the police come along, investigate a potential offense against the criminal code, and lay a charge. They used to be able to do that. And there were some things wrong with that system. There had to be a little more guidance put into it. But that doesn't happen anymore. But when it involves a public figure, it seems that the decision must be made, not at the ordinary level for you and me, but at the highest level in the civil service. The police investigation will quite properly not ever be made public. The details of the Associate Deputy Attorney General's findings will not ever be made public. And we will be left wondering if, in fact, the proper decision was made. There are two possible solutions. Firstly, that when an elected official is involved in an accusation, and if there is any reasonable prima facie case, as the police and one lawyer thought in the Ritchie affair, the charge should be heard in court so that the person accused can be properly and publicly cleared. And the second is that the Attorney General should not be a member of his government's cabinet. that he should stand outside it, as once was the case here and still is the case in Britain, and be able to make a decision as to charge or not to charge, because the Attorney General is a man whom the public can hold fully responsible. And I think the people of BC are entitled to be querulous about the state of the administration of justice to those in high places in this province. Who can forget the Farris affair, which still, as far as the man in the street is concerned, is in limbo? Who can forget the shocking Bendrot affair, where the judge had the problem with alcoholism and whatnot, and returns to the bench without penalty? Who can forget the Fulton affair, where a Supreme Court judge was in trouble with drinking and driving? And now we have the affair of another judge, Malcolm Archibald MacDonald, fined and punished quite heavily, I must say, for being over 0.08 on alcohol content, but not charged with hit and run. Perhaps properly so. Again, I am prepared to accept the discretion of the officials on the face of it, but they must know that the man in the street is becoming increasingly cynical and skeptical about whether those in high places are dealt with in a manner different from you and me. The thing that the Attorney General, Alan Williams, must do now, at least in the question of judges in instant trouble with the law, is to amend that Provincial Judges Act so that there can be power to suspend judges and ensure that those who do get into trouble can be removed without pay from the bench for at least the period of their driving suspension.
You're on the wrong one now. Excuse me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Next segment.
Next segment.
In England.
Word, sir.
In England.
No, I got it done in Vancouver, but
Yeah.
it was just a stray guy I went to.
What
So,
do you want me to say?
Can you hear him?
How about that? I may speak a bit louder sometimes, but basically I'll speak a bit like this, I guess.
30 seconds.
So when I get excited or angry or something.
make you angry if I try. I make no bones about my position this morning. In the studio I have the Reverend Martin Porter, who is the Canadian Director for the Unification Church, which we know as the Moonies. And I have done sufficient interviewing and a little bit of research on the background of Sun Myung Moon and his Moonies to be very much against the entire movement, especially where it involves the virtual disappearance of young Canadians into strange cultish camps in California and elsewhere. And on this program you have heard Christopher Edwards, Crazy for God. You have heard the Moonie, ex-Moonie deprogrammers, the counselors, and you have heard the dreadful story of the Steffich family, whereby young people of apparently high IQ, middle class or upper class whites are, I use the word, trapped at airports and bus depots to go to join some family for dinner. And a few weeks later or less, they find that all of a sudden they're living in the back of a van and they're going around the streets peddling roses, candles, flowers, candies for the greater glorification of Sun Myung Moon, who apparently is building up millions and millions for some strange theocratic empire that he has in mind. Martin Porter, that's my view of the Moonies. You're going to have a very difficult job to convince me otherwise. And you'll probably tell me that things in Canada are different. But as of this moment, I know of cases where parents are absolutely paralyzed with fear about what's happening to the youngsters in the hands of your cult. How do you plead?
I think you should study more deeply our theology, which is the basis and what makes us different from any other church. The basic theology is the difference. Our way of life is not necessarily so different from other religious people's lives.
You have seen the Crazy for God program. You know the Steffich story. You've seen the deprogrammers. You've had these incredible details of how they are picked off the street by front groups, taken to places, choo, 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 pow, pow, pow. brainwashed,
Okay.
like Korean prisoners of war. And after
Okay.
all, Sun Myung Moon is a Korean.
He's
and
from
they seem
South
to
Korea.
lose,
He's not a communist.
they
The
seem to
deprogram-
lose their free will, don't they?
The deprogramming was going on in North Korea. Reverend Moon is a religious man, and therefore he believes very much in people's own free will and their free expression. We want to become people that can truly express ourselves in a free society, and this is what we're working to build.
Why do you use young people to go out begging on the streets, selling bits and
Okay,
pieces
if
to raise
people-
hundreds of thousands of dollars a week?
If people like our lifestyle, they do it, and when people don't like it anymore, they make their own choices and go their own way. But I wish you...
But
we
are
could
they
get-
free to do that?
Well, of course they're free to
The story
do
I
this.
get is that they're not, that your people
Yes, but-
jump into action
Okay.
with kidnap warrants, the police, all the help they can get, and virtually hold them incommunicado.
Christopher Edwards is trying to sell his book, so naturally his book must be interesting for someone to read. So coming on your program, all he's doing is promoting his own literature in which he has a vested interest.
So Christopher
The
Edwards...
deprogrammers also charge a great deal of money, and I'm sure the Steffiches can also say that, and many other people will. They charge a lot of money for doing this. So they have a vested interest in it.
So
There is-
everything that Christopher Edwards told me is lies. Is
I
that
didn't
correct?
say that.
Is it then?
I think we have to take point by point. I would not say anybody says only lies.
Well, let's take it point by point. Up at 5 o'clock in the morning, out for 20 hours a day, selling $50, $35 to $50 an hour for whatever he was selling, parceling all the money to the Holy Spirit Church, whatever it is. Is that true or false?
We live a very intense life because we feel it's very important what we're doing. In Canada, we do not get up at 5 o'clock. We normally get up at 6 o'clock. Then we have prayer together, we have breakfast together, and then we start our daily activities.
And what is that?
Well, we talk to people anywhere and everywhere.
And what do you call yourself when you talk to them?
Unification Church.
You should go up and say, I'm a member of Sun Myung Moon's Unification Church?
I say I'm from Unification Church, and I talk about what we're doing.
You don't
we
say
are-
you're Christian Youth Services?
No, we're not a
Education Services?
We say where we are from, because unless people know where we are from, how can they know what we're doing? How can they come and find us and so on?
All the stories I've got there from the other people are not true. That you do not trap people at bus depots in Seattle, Tacoma Airport or San Francisco. They're just not true.
Well, people are met anywhere and everywhere. Do they know where they are? Of course they know where
Your
they
missionaries are on the street.
Yes.
And they say to them, oh, you're new in town, do come and have dinner with the family. Is that right?
No. I would say, I'm from Unification Church. Would you like to come and hear what we're saying, what we're doing? And we invite them maybe even to an evening meal. Why not?
And then how long do you keep them at the evening meal?
Well, they hear what they want to hear, and if they want to hear more, they hear more. If not, friends as before, and they go home.
Do you go out to select only white, affluent, young, fairly intelligent students?
We talk to anybody and everybody. Because
Why is it therefore that Boonville and Camp Kay are full of young, white, affluent people and there are very few blacks and no winos? You don't take winos, do you?
Well, we don't drink alcohol ourselves.
So you don't take alcoholics?
I think some people may have some problem with alcohol, but in our church there's no alcohol, so they
Why
can't
do you
get
aim
alcohol.
just for these young
But
people?
this is your opinion of this. We
No,
have many
I'm
black
going on-
people
I'm going
in
on
the
facts
States
from
where
people
there
I've
is many
interviewed.
black people. There are many black people in our church. I don't have the statistics. It may be true that there are more white people in our church than black people. But there are people of all different backgrounds and racial backgrounds in our church.
What is love bombing?
I'm not quite sure.
But you're the Canadian director of the Unification
This is a
Church.
term I think that the California family uses to looking after people and
Does
so
the,
on.
does
We
the
don't
California
use this term at
family
all.
use love bombing?
They do use this term, yes.
They do,
Which
do
means
they?
looking after people, embracing people, making them feel at home, and so on.
What about, supposing I were to tell you that I have the facts on a young man from South Africa called Philip Rogers, who went down to San Francisco on August the 20th, has virtually disappeared into that place. His visa to the United States has expired. His passport will expire shortly. His family have seen him briefly having come from South Africa, and they're fully convinced that he has been brainwashed and in effect terrorized. Why would the Moonies not produce that fellow and say, go back to your family, go back to your mother and father, go up to Canada and see them? Why not?
I can't make any comment on the specific case. I don't know anything
Have you
about
heard of
it.
cases like it?
In our church in Canada, absolutely not.
Well-
Any parent knows he can get in touch with me, and I'll tell them where they are. And we had a parents' meeting just recently when so many of the parents came together with their kids. They spent time together and so on.
But if I'm a parent who wants my child away from the influence of the Moonies, to talk to him privately for a
Of course
couple
they
of
do
weeks?
that.
Can they do that?
Why not if they want to do
Will
it?
you get Philip Rogers back from California so that his relatives here can talk to him?
I don't know this Philip Rogers. I could get in touch with them
I am correct,
and ask them to find out if he's there and to get in touch with his parents. Why not? I'm not
all right,
opposed to that.
If I'm correct in my facts, and I'll give you the details later, would you guarantee, as a measure of sincerity of your church, because I'm accusing you of virtual brainwashing and a form of kidnapping, with a South African citizen whose visa has expired, would you bring him back to Canada and let his friends here get in touch with his family in South Africa?
I can't necessarily bring him back here.
Will you try?
I will talk to Dr. Durst. I will call him even
Dr.
after
who?
Dr. Durst, who runs the outfit.
He runs
Our church in California. I will call him personally and ask him to see what's happening, and I can bring you back word if you like.
Tell me about Moon.
What do you like to know?
Your ex-Moonies are fully convinced that they are fed a philosophy, theocratic philosophy, in which he is the second coming, that he wants to establish a theocratic state over the entire world. Is that true or false?
Reverend Moon is saying this, that God is the cause of our life, and we want to be God's children, and we want to be people that can really know God and what he's doing in the world today.
What's his political
Reverend
plan?
Moon said in an interview to Newsweek that he is like a forerunner in this time, indicating the moment in history we're living in, so that people may understand the historic moment and God's plan for man.
What is
I
his
would say,
plan?
listen to it, apply it to your life, make up your own mind. Do we believe in a theocratic state? Essentially, yes, we do believe in this.
All politicians are corrupt?
I never said that.
No, I'm asking
He
you,
never
do you
said
believe that?
I think history will show that some politicians are, but I think a lot of very good-minded people trying to do something good for the people they represent.
Is he the savior in your view? You're a minister of his church, or his cult, as I would call
I
it.
very naturally believe in what he is saying. For 15 years, I've followed this teaching, and it has given me personally a great deal. Do I teach other people? Of course I teach other people.
And
what
you
I feel
teach
is
them
valuable myself.
that he is the savior?
I
That
think each
Jesus
person,
failed and he is the savior?
No, I've never taught that Jesus failed. But Jesus, if you remember his own words, he said, I have many things to tell you yet. You cannot bear them yet. A time will come when you'll know more things. I believe that Jesus lived in a very difficult time, and he went through enormous persecutions and died. But in 1.5 hours, or however long this program is, it is very difficult to go into the depth of our theology on Jesus' life and death.
All I want to know is, does Sun Myung Moon teach you that he is the savior?
He's never said who he is.
Do you believe he is the savior?
Do I believe so?
Yes.
He's given an enormous amount to me, and I think history will say
You think
who
he's
he
the
is.
savior?
History will tell you this
You
answer.
think he's the
It's
savior?
not material what I think.
Do you
Can you judge everything from what I think or somebody else
Well,
thinks?
you're the director of the church.
History will tell you who he really is, what he realizes in his life.
Why
Like
did
history
so-
teaches us what Jesus did in his life.
Why do so many people escape from your Moonie establishments and denounce them and say that they have been brainwashed?
Wait a moment. Many people leave on their own free will. Other people are dragged out and they are deprogrammed, which is a very sophisticated form of programming.
You don't mind people being deprogrammed, do you?
Do I mind?
Yeah.
I like people to make up their own mind. I would hate anyone to be in our church that didn't want to be in our church.
I mean, I'm trying
because
to-
he'd be useless to himself and useless to society.
I'm trying to program you that I believe that you brainwash youngsters, that you hold them virtually, that
No.
you take away their free
Absolutely
will
not.
with sophisticated brainwashing
Absolutely
techniques.
not. Absolutely not. We teach people like you study in any school and so on. Take, for example, a weekend workshop, which I teach very, very often. We have about 5 lectures in the course of 2 days, after which we have discussions on it, sports, activities, all sorts of other activities. So you can't say that our workload is very heavy.
Next, I want you to tell me, if you'll find out for me, how many Canadians are illegally in the United States in Moonie establishments after the break. The Reverend Martin Porter is the Canadian director, well, not yet, Martin. The Reverend Martin Porter is the Canadian director of the Unification Church. Now, I want to be quite specific. Do you know of any Canadians in the United States who are not there legally,
Absolutely
who have
not.
gone down on visits?
No. I'm not very familiar with how many Canadians there are in our movement
I
in the
am
United
told that what you do is you bring them back across the border on flower trips so they can re-enter without a visa.
I have absolutely no idea.
You have no
what-
knowledge of that.
no.
Have you never had any such complaints?
Well, I've read this book, which bore testimony to this, but
The
personally...
Steffage case.
Yes, I know about the Steffage case.
And surely people have come to you and said, we're terribly worried about the change in personality of our young adult who has been taken by your people. What are you doing to him? How many have come to you on that?
Nobody ever. But you must realize this, that anybody who has a spiritual conversion has a change in life. Many people had no direction or purpose in life. They hear something which means something deeply to them, and they have like a spiritual conversion. So many things, their outlook on life changes, they're more invested in life, many things like this. So this is something very, very positive, and I think many Christians would bear testimony to this. Some very positive changes when Christ comes into their life. It may look like brainwashing.
No, you don't mean Christ, you mean Sun Myung Moon.
I said when Christ comes into their life, when God comes into their life, they find a meaning and purpose in life. This is a very beautiful thing. And any Christian will bear testimony to this.
Who authorizes your heavenly deception? That's the catchword phrase that comes through every Moonie who comes out of those camps. Yeah. They were told to use heavenly deception.
I'm totally opposed to anything called deception.
Does it happen?
In Canada, it does not happen.
Does it happen in the United States?
I hear from these testimonies it does, but I tell you this.
They're not all liars, are they?
Unification Church of Canada does reflect very much my personality. I'm very clear in what I say and what I tell people. I don't deceive anybody. I've never tried.
How much are you paid in your job?
I'm not paid at all.
How much money do you send down to the Holy Spirit Association of Sun Myung Moon?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none.
I thought he got all your money.
Absolutely not.
You've seen Virginia.
We raise money here in Canada to support the needs of our movement. We don't send money anywhere. We don't have any extra funds.
You know what the Americans say? They say that Canadians are the easiest mugs to pick up in U.S. airports and get into the Moonie camps.
I don't necessarily believe it.
You don't believe that?
I have a great deal of respect for Canadian people, and I don't believe this at all.
Heavenly deception is not practiced here?
Absolutely not.
Why is it that people here are peddling and selling things on your behalf and not saying that they're from the Unification Church?
They do say they're raising money for their church work, and they want to know about our church work. We talk about our church work.
Well, I'm told otherwise, but they may tell you differently. Do they have a quota of money to raise?
Absolutely not.
Do you believe the figures used in the American interviews and the Steffage story about how much money is raised?
I'm very skeptical about it.
$250,000 a month in one center in Texas.
I'm very skeptical about that.
Is it true that they are out working in the morning from 6 o'clock on to make their hourly money selling this junk?
Here in Canada, we do get up about 6 o'clock in the morning, we have prayer meeting together, we have breakfast together, and then people go about their daily work. So they do not go out so early in the morning.
What do you sell?
We don't sell anything. We talk about our ideals, we talk about our programs, and we ask them to contribute. If they like to contribute, then we give them something, because we don't like just to receive from people, we want to give something.
October, November, December, so-and-so. Vancouver, selling peanuts, selling candies.
We're not selling anything.
Selling candies.
Okay, let me give an answer.
Selling candies.
We do not
on peddler's permits.
We do not.
Why do you get peddler's permits?
Why do we have a permit?
Why do you have a peddler's permit if you're not selling things?
I think we were required to get some sort of a permit.
Because you're selling things.
No, we're not selling people.
You wouldn't need the permits if you weren't selling things.
It's a question of interpretation of the law. I might come to your house, I might meet you here and say, I'd talk about our work and I'd ask you to make a donation. If you like to, you would. We give something. It's not a sale at all. We're not selling at all.
Martin.
Not at all.
You have a highly sophisticated, slick organization which comes up to people in the streets of Vancouver. I've had it myself when my studios were in Gastown, saying, we're doing youth work throughout the world internationally, $2 for a tulip.
No, we don't sell flowers.
That's your people?
No, we never sell flowers.
Not last year? Not the year before?
No.
Just peanuts you sell?
No foodstuffs in Vancouver area.
Now, you see, you're the wrong person for me to be interviewing, because I am fully convinced that everything I've been told about your mode of operation in California, the peanut butter, the semi-starvation, the begging used hamburgers from McDonald's is true.
I don't believe one word of this. If a person doesn't sleep and doesn't eat, he cannot do anything. You know that very well.
Let's see that clip from Christopher Edwards right now about brainwashing. Let's see it. We'll have to watch it on the top monitor. The other one's in use. You've seen it before. Here we go.
And did it come to a question of actually brainwashing you with phrases, with choo-choo-choos and repetition?
Yes, absolute repetition, over and over.
Give me a sample. Again. Can you give me a sample? See if you can do me in 60 seconds or less.
Of what? The choo-choo?
Yeah, the choo-choo.
Well, okay, if you can imagine the picture that is even in the first morning, Saturday morning, there were about 300 people, and they were gathered around a circle, looking very innocent, smiling, trying to say, well, let's just be children, relax for the weekend. We grab hands and we'd shout, choo, 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 like that, up and down. People playing patty cake in the corner.
Patty cake,
That's right.
baker's
It
man.
seemed
Choo, 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 choo.
idiotic, right?
And you're a guy with a BA from Yale.
That's right.
And later you became, you will tell me on oath again, a slave who
Essentially,
toiled,
I would have done
half-starved
anything.
for these
That's
people.
right. I was getting 4 hours of sleep a night. I was doing frequent fasts. Even when I wasn't fasting, I was practically starving.
You went out
had
as a slave
diseases.
for them.
Yeah,
to raise money.
I lost my ability to make my decisions. They could have told me to do anything, and I would have done it.
Not
and I have
kill.
to emphasize, I don't think that I was particularly susceptible to this, no more so than the average person, far less so than the average person my age.
We have no chanting of this. If it goes on in California, I have no comment on it. We do no chanting.
Why would you be associated with an organization that does this kind of thing? It's idiotic.
Well, I would think it doesn't sound
Childish.
very... I would think it sounds a bit childish.
Is it not effective with a certain type of youngster, though? Is it not a brainwashing technique?
I wouldn't have thought so. Brainwashing. Children do it, I
You
think.
sure you belong to the same church as Sun Myung Moon?
Yes, I belong to Unification Church.
I'm beginning to wonder. Are you telling me that Sun Myung Moon has not been a figure of controversy, charged under the securities regulations, accused of involvement with the Korean CIA, and
Yes,
also...
but what was proved of all of that? The Fraser Committee released a whole lot of erroneous information that was not proven, and if you read the book, it was taken back at the end. Fraser himself declared that our movement was founded by the KCAA in 1963, which is rather hard to believe when our movement started in 1946, long before the KCIA was ever founded. But in the book, if you read it, he said there was absolutely no proof to this effect.
Now, the young Canadians for whom you are now proselytizing at this very moment, is that not correct?
Mm-hmm.
How successful have you been in Vancouver?
How successful? What is the definition of
Numbers.
success?
How many
I
converts?
don't think numbers is a definition of success.
Are you
I have led a very meaningful life since I heard this teaching and applied it to myself. I don't believe if there are more people, it's more successful or less successful. Some people are very interested in a religious life and find meaning in it, and others don't.
I get the impression from you, the Reverend Martin Porter, that you're prepared to let me accept as true all the bad things I've heard from California about the brainwashing, about the 8, 10 hours, 16 hours a day in a car, about the semi-starvation, but that it's all different in Canada. Why should your techniques be any different from what they use in California?
I don't know exactly what's happening in California.
Why not?
I tell you how... Well, naturally, Unification Church of Canada reflects my personality.
No, it doesn't.
I eat and other people eat, because if you don't eat, you're not going to do anything. And if you don't sleep, you can't do anything.
These
and trying
children
to
who are out...
convince people is useless
All right.
occupation.
These children who are out seeking donations for the
Yes.
glorification of Sun Myung Moon
That's not for that purpose. It's to support our activities.
are not paid.
You know, many, many people have never ever met him, but they're inspired by his teaching.
What activities do you have?
Well, we have all sorts of teaching activities. We have all sorts of different
Do you
activities
have them
developing.
out? Do you have them out cleaning rugs and washing
No.
windows?
This is a company they formed in California that I think cleans rugs and does other things. I think it's a very practical way of raising money.
Washes windows, cleans rugs, and puts all the money into your church.
Now, everybody who works in our companies is paid. There's a law. Everybody has to be paid. What they do with their money is their business.
How much do you pay them?
I don't know what they get
What
paid.
companies do you have in Canada?
We don't have any companies.
You haven't
this
got
way.
the stage of
our
setting them
movement
up
is
yet.
very small here. It's a very, very small movement.
But you're operating in Kelowna, Vancouver, and other interior towns, are you not?
Well, we visit people there. We don't have a base there yet.
You were refused, of course, a license for a church in Vancouver, were you not?
No, we were not. We do
75, 76?
We do have a church here. We've been established here, I think, since about 75. Well, so that is not true. We are registered under the Charities Act here in BC.
Anything one gives is deductible from income tax?
Yes, definitely.
How much is Sun Myung Moon worth in the
I
church?
have absolutely no idea.
No idea?
But you see, the question is this. You say it is for him. It is not for him. We have our own board of directors here. We raise money
a
to
list of them.
support...
Got a list of
I'm
your
one
board
of
of
them. I'm the
directors?
president of the board of directors. Alan Wilding is another one. David Decker is another one. Many different people. And the money is to support our activities here. In America, too, the money supports our activities there.
Take my point of view. Virginia Mabry,
Yes.
collecting in a wheelchair. Heavenly deception.
Well, I've never heard anything like this.
You wouldn't call her a liar, would you?
Look, I have no proof of anything.
Is this the kind of church
I
that
very
you-
much disapprove anything like this.
Is this the kind
I
of
mean, who
thing you want to
wouldn't?
be associated with?
I don't approve of anything that is not clear, because I'm
Next-
very clear myself.
Next, we're going to talk about the Steffich case.
Very good.
Is it true, the Reverend Porter, Unification disciple, apostle of the Moonies, that those who oppose Moon will die?
I don't believe it. Have you ever seen anything like that happen?
I'm asking you.
I don't believe it.
This is what the kids are told.
I don't believe it at all.
Are they not told too that death is preferable to leaving the Moonies?
I wouldn't have thought so. I think God is working everywhere. I would only want people to be in our church that really mean to be there. And I wouldn't want anything else.
Total freedom to come out at any time?
Why not? What's
Not
the use of a
brainwashed?
person? What is the use of a person that can't make decisions for his own life and find value in what he's doing? They're totally useless to themselves. So I wouldn't accept that at all.
Leaders in August 1976 outside Frankfurt, from Sontag's book. We are like the Hitler Youth Movement in the very intense idealism that we share. We feel an intense loyalty towards our leader. True?
Who said this?
Leaders at a training center in Frankfurt, August 76.
We do feel very much loyalty to Reverend Moon, and if you study his teaching, you'll know why. But if people leave our church or lose faith, that's up to them.
And it's all garbage. People who say that they're taught suicide techniques
Absolute
rather than leave the church.
Absolute garbage.
Just garbage.
You only want to commit suicide when you've lost any hope of a better life.
When people...
No one would be normal, in their normal state of mind, commit suicide.
well, I would never want to commit suicide.
No, because in a normal state, you've got something to look forward to, you never would.
You would only commit suicide if you had nothing better to look forward to. Is that right?
I didn't say that. I've never even contemplated such a thing, because I think we are God's children, and it's not up to us to terminate our own life.
How do you explain the behavior of your colleagues? And don't try and say that I'm the Canadian bit, nothing to do with the States. In the Steffich case.
What case?
Show you a little clip in 15 seconds from now in the case of Ray Steffich and the 26-year-old son, whom they kidnapped and were starting to deprogram. The motel was surrounded by Moonies. The
Yes, and what
cars
happened?
were slashed.
What
the tires were
happened?
slashed. We're going to see the clip first,
Okay,
and
then I'll
give
make
you
a
equal
comment.
time to make your comment.
Okay.
But let me first of all put a perfectly brutal question to you. How old is your son?
26.
Is he in his right mind?
Not down there, he's not, Jack.
Would he be certified as mentally incompetent if he was challenged on his IQ and his ability to do things and his coordination and his social behavior?
I would say right now, Jack, that if you gave Mike a test as far as a university entrance, that he would flunk it, because it's a known fact. Kids that are involved in these cults, they regress.
But he is not a kid. Your son is 26. What right do you, the Steffiches, fine people, I know that, have to create a bit of an international fuss and furor because your son has decided to go a strange and different way? Should he not be a free agent to do as he wishes when he wishes?
May I answer that?
Please.
What we did was not take something away from him, it was to give something back to him. His right to think, his right to act on his own, to make up his own mind what he was going to do. If Michael had walked into that church, a free man, and said, this is what I want, but he went under false pretenses, and that was how they took him. And so we gave him the knowledge of what he was into. Mike, for 6 days, he got all the information. The two deprogrammers were kids that he was with as Moonies. He cleaned rugs with one of the boys. We were giving him back
The point I'm trying
something.
to make is that you feel that even though he's 26, his mental state and his behavior is so odd that you feel fully entitled to take whatever steps you could to rescue him from this religion, or is it a cult?
It's a cult, Jack, an out-and-out cult.
Dangerous cult?
Yes, very dangerous, Jack. It's a very dangerous cult, and we felt that in November of 1978, after Guyana, we felt that we've got to do something, and these cults are as dangerous as Jimmy Jones.
The Staffordshires are in the studio.
Yeah.
They're decent people, decent children. This boy was a bit rootless, was wandering a little bit at the time. They've tried hard to get him back to their way of life, and they feel they have been physically prevented, almost, to the extent of their car being surrounded in the motel, to the extent of the police being involved, to the extent of all the Moonies around at the time. And to me, it's appalling and abhorrent that this boy has lost his free will and can't come out of Canada from the States, from which, and he's probably illegally in the States at this moment.
Okay. Because of this program, I called Mike myself. I spoke to him on the phone just yesterday because I saw your program and I wanted to ask him some definite questions about what took place. And he spoke to me how he came into Unification Church. He called his parents, and he was quite emotional in his way of speech because he wanted them very much to understand his choice. As his mother, I believe, said, he was above average student, he had a good scholarship, but staying in Hawaii just wasn't for him. So he came back. He went to Europe, he came back. He studied another school, he got good grades, he got all of these things. But very obviously from this, we can see someone who's really trying to find their way in life. Then, at a certain point, he goes to California and really finds something which to him at that time was most meaningful. He calls up. He wants so much to be understood by his parents, and he apparently was quite emotional on the phone. Anyway, about 4 months later, in September, he comes back and is with his parents for a certain length of time. Some young lady comes to the house who knows him, knows he's in Unification Church. He doesn't tell his parents directly because of his own choice that he is in Unification Church. Because what he's doing is he's working in a creative community project, which is a project founded by Unification Church. It's a project in which they distribute enormous amounts of foodstuffs, building materials, and so on. I think last year they gave away about $2.5 million worth of materials, which is a definite project helping a lot of people's lives. He was working in this. He must have spoken to his parents about this, and they seemed very happy in what he was doing, and they could see he was happy. Okay. Later, this young lady apparently calls his parents and tells them he's in Unification Church. And because, obviously, of the media, publicity, and so on, they're most upset and worried about this. They think he must be brainwashed. I don't know what took place in their lives after this, but obviously they came down to find out more from their own experience. At this time, they heard Dr. Durst, or Professor Durst, speaking, and he gave them every opportunity to express themselves. And from their own statements, they were happy he was in the church, and all of these things. I spoke to Dr. Durst about this too. However, after this, or during this time, they're also planning to get him out of it. So I think their method was very deceptive, coming down there and saying everything was fine, yet they had very many questions. And I feel it would have been only fair to ask Dr. Durst directly, what about this, what about this, what about this? And they could have had a very clear answer to our point of view, or what was going on.
You say he's there willingly now?
We don't. Then, apparently, they grab hold of him. One day he leaves their restaurant, apparently, and if I understood rightly, apparently they must have cut the tires of his car, so he had to get out to sea. Then
No,
a whole lot
it
of
wasn't
people.
his tires.
Well,
It was their tires that were cut by your people. I
well,
understand it.
I may have misunderstood this. Anyway, he was grabbed by a whole lot of people. His mother chloroformed him, so that explains why he slept for quite a long time afterwards. Then apparently they gave him pills that night, and therefore he slept quite a long time.
They had him for about 6 days, I believe.
Yes, he was trussed up like a turkey for about 3 days of this, so he couldn't move.
They will
and
deny
he was
that.
limited.
I will agree they took,
I
they
wasn't
took
there.
strong action. But
Look,
now this is a case where
yeah.
all of a sudden you know what's going on in California.
Look.
Do you also know that there was
Listen.
a possible kidnapping warrant against the father for getting his own son back from what he thought was a dangerous organization?
I
Funny
wasn't
you've got
there.
all this knowledge about the Stevich case,
No,
but you don't know about
you
the
don't
20
even let
hour...
me talk about
But
it.
just a minute, I'm
But you-
making the point. You don't know about the 20-hour days and the semi-starvation. Carry
talked-
on the Stevich case.
I talked to Dr. Durst, and I also spoke to Mike Steffage. I wanted to know what he had to say. I wasn't there, so I had to ask one of the participants. And he told me he was trussed up like a turkey for 2 to 3 days. His parents ate meals with him, and the deprogrammers tried to convince him. Now, apparently, on that Monday morning, members of our church must have understood where he was. They surrounded the building so no one could get away in this way, which you think is abhorrent. What did they do? They called the police. Why did they call the police? Because their feeling was he was held against his will. So let the police come in. The police took him away. They talked to him. And he decided, and they talked to the parents, apparently. All of these things, the parents can clarify some of these points. And then he decided what he wanted to do, which was to go back to Unification Church, and has done that.
That's not my understanding at all.
But this is what he
my
said.
understanding is that he decided he was going to go to neutral territory.
Yeah.
That he was taken back to the police station by the police.
Yes.
But that instead of going to neutral territory, I suspect your people got to him first and took him back to Camp
No.
K or whatever.
He was he was with 3 detectives. It was up to him to decide. Talking to the detectives, they said it was for him to decide. Where do you want to go? He wanted to go back to
Do
Unification
your people
Church.
encourage kidnapping warrants against parents who become even the titch paranoid about your brainwashing of their children? Do you?
I have never been involved in this.
You
But
see-
in this case, look, take the case. He did not bring any charges. Right after they went, he thought they came back by plane. He called up his parents. He wanted to say hello. He asked his sister, apparently, to make a cake for them or something. He wanted to have a good relationship. But once they had this fixed idea that he was brainwashed, even though he seemed to be happy to them, it was obviously because of something else. The relationship between him and his parents was ruined by this thing. I hear he even called a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what happened in this conversation.
you may well
but
be-
I'm sure he would like to have a very good relationship,
Yes.
like any one of our
You
church
may well
would.
be correct in that, but take it from the parents' point of view, or from my point of view. You come up here, you're well briefed on the Steffich case. You're not well briefed on what happens in the United States. You tried to tell me the Canadian Unification Church is a very reasonable, tolerant, open, free thing. I find, in fact, I can't believe you when I
Well, why
know
don't
of
you
what happens in the
investigate
United
Unification
States.
Church of Canada? Why don't you investigate what I'm doing? You'll see for yourself.
I'm already
Our
up-
doors are always open. I was informed of the Steffich case only for one reason, because I knew I was going to have to confront it.
Have you
Here-
read Crazy for God?
Yes, I have read part
Can
of
you
it.
answer all his allegations
I
in
think I
Crazy for
can
God?
answer everything.
You told me earlier you don't know what goes on in California, that they're all crazy. You didn't use the word crazy, but the strange things. Choo, 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 pow, pow, pow,
If
pow.
some people like to chant like this, it's up to them. It is not for me. It's not part of our teaching. It's not what Reverend Moon teaches. If they like to express themselves in this way and have, what do you say, pat a cake in the corner, that's completely up to them. I wouldn't do it. I stopped doing that when I was 6 years
Is it
old.
true or is it not true that young Canadians attracted by heavenly deception to go to places in the United States finish up as semi-starved slaves selling peanuts? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Not true.
It isn't true, because even if they didn't know, when they came, they were said, would you like to come and have dinner with us? And they might say yes. They might know it was Unification Church. But after a very short time of hearing our teaching, they know exactly where it came
I
from.
asked you about love bombing. You said you know nothing about it.
Well, love bombing is an expression of looking after people. It's a
Of
Californian
A
expression.
domineering brainwashing technique.
If people didn't want to be there, they wouldn't be there. You know that very well.
How come it's so difficult to get young Canadians out there, even if they are illegally in the United States, having overstayed their leaves?
I have no idea.
Why do reasonable, affluent Canadian parents find it necessary to go and bring their kids back forcefully? What's so horrifying about your organization?
The parents, because the deprogrammers have a vested interest in trying to develop their own financial means through deprogramming.
You're
They go to
telling
the
me-
parents, listen, they go to the parents, tell all sorts of horror stories. You even heard it. Unification Church is dangerous like Guyana. We're not living in a jungle, we're living in human society. We're not hiding people, and we are not Marxists like Jimmy Jones was.
You may be neo-fascist, though, in your theocratic outlooks.
No, we are anti-communist. Well, naturally, any sane person would be, and anybody that is a religious person would take a religious view of
Oh,
anti-communism.
you're an anti-communist theocracy.
Well, Marxism is a religion. Surely you've understood that.
No, no, not religion.
It's
Philosophy.
definitely a religious philosophy, and they treat it like a religion. It is an atheistic religion. The only thing to overcome that is to bring the existence of God into people's lives. That's the only thing that will change that.
So therefore, the deprogrammers convinced the Steppiches and another family of whom I know in detail
Yeah.
for their deprogrammers' own financial benefit.
Definitely.
They come up and lie and cheat and say, and then the Steppiches and others say, oh my God, we're a bald, here's thousands of dollars, go kidnap our child.
Yes, but it often takes $10,000 to $20,000. I don't know what it costs them.
And you think it's done
Apparently,
by
the
parents?
first deprogrammers they got into took some money from them and didn't do anything. Then they had another lot come in. I'm not so familiar with this.
So
That's apparently.
we're getting back to the old story where everyone is out of step but Sun Myung Moon.
I never said that.
Webster and Reverend Martin Porter after the break.
Yeah, I asked him to call Ask him to call.
Before
Gotta get this on to you.
you
To
all
talk
right?
to
You okay?
Can you guys do that up there so that
You have now. Close together.
30 seconds. Get this right here. I think you have to do that button right there. 15, Jack. 8.
Without my knowledge, but not against my will as it now happens, the Steffich's boy Mike is on the phone from California. The Steffich's are in the studio. Martin Porter, meet the Steffich's.
Pleased to meet you.
Oh, where is he? God. He'll phone back again, will he?
Push clear.
Oh, push clear.
Difficult to...
We've lost him. Dash.
He'll call back.
He'll call back again, I'm sure he will. Well, we'll continue for the moment.
I
Now,
suggested he called because into the program to say anything he wanted to say, because it seemed only fair that he was involved.
certainly seems only fair. Whether or not I can judge whether it's been effectively brainwashed by you, I don't know, but I'll make an effort.
Well, not
because
by me, because I wasn't there.
I'm
But,
inclined to believe he was.
but one thing I'd like to bring up, you know, from his own mother's words, he said after 6 days of being together there, he was really back into himself. He was himself. Then the police pick him up, and he decides what he wants to do.
Did he? In fact, I'll go to Steffich's now. You heard what Martin Porter said about your boy's more or less free decision to go back to the Moonies. What is your view of it? What do you think happened to your boy that horrible occasion in California?
Jack, he did not. I gave him all the money that I had on me. He said, Dad, the Moonies said, Mike, come back with us. And we said, Mike, come home with us. He said, I want to go to neutral grounds. I want to go to an airport. I want to go to neutral grounds and think. I've learned a lot in the past 6 days. And with that, the police took him away.
That was the last you saw of him.
Right.
Do you ever think he got a chance to go to neutral ground?
He didn't, Jack, because we phoned the policeman the following day and asked him what happened. And he said that he dropped Mike down at the police station. The Moonies were waiting for him down there.
Picked him up and whistled him
Took
away.
him to the Aladdin Cafe.
Slightly different, isn't it?
Not necessarily different at all, because if he didn't want to go, he could have asked the police, no, don't let me go with these people, let me go somewhere else. The police cannot determine. They asked him where he wanted to go, and this is what took place. Therefore, I would ask him, did he want to be where he is, or didn't he not want to be where he is?
Mike Steffich, how old are you now?
26, almost 27.
How long have you been in the United States?
A few months this time around.
How many months this time around?
About 3 months.
3 months. Why do you come back and forward to Canada without seeing your people?
Sometimes, yeah.
Why do you do that, Michael?
Pardon me?
Why do you do that?
Because.
Because otherwise you would be illegally in the United States, is that correct?
Not true.
Well, wouldn't you be if you stay down there for more than your normal visiting time, 6 months?
Yes, that's true.
So you've got to come back here so you can go back legally into the States again.
That's true.
How many other young Canadians do that with you when you come back here?
I do it by myself.
By yourself. Who drives you to the border?
What?
Who drives you to the border?
No one does. I go by myself. They let me out by myself sometimes, you know.
Oh, sometimes. Do they not always let you out by yourself?
I'm just being very sarcastic, Mr. Webster, as I'm sure you have your own idea of what my life is like here.
Have you been brainwashed?
No.
What do you think? Tell me about Sun Myung Moon. What is his master plan for the world?
His master plan for the world.
Yeah.
That's a good question, you know. It takes a long time to describe it.
It's not even a fair question. What are you doing? Which camp are you in now?
I'm in no camp. I'm in San Francisco.
Where are you living in San Francisco?
On Bush Street.
In one of the houses. Is that right?
We have many buildings in San Francisco.
And what do you
That's one of
do?
them.
What work are you doing for the Moonies now?
I work in the warehouse of the volunteer program.
I see. You're not out selling stuff in a van.
I'm not out selling stuff in a van.
And you've not been brainwashed.
And I have not been brainwashed.
And have you broken with your family?
Well, it seems like the break is maybe not my break, you know.
Your mother and father are most unhappily sitting here listening. Is there anything you want to say? No, they want to say. Ray?
No. What is
No.
there to say?
What is there to say, they say? They feel they have lost you to a strange cult that picked you up, brainwashed you, and is holding you without your free will in the United States. And I agree with them, Martin Porter. I don't care what you tell me.
Mr.
My
Webster,
mind
have you
is
checked
made
it out
up.
yourself by any chance? Or have you listened to my parents and what lies they've been told? And have you chosen that to be fact? I mean, really, what have you checked out, Mr. Webster?
Well, I've checked on quite a bit. What is your life going to be from here on in, Michael?
What is my life going to be? I'd like to ask you to maybe say that question to my folks, you know, and anybody else who's listening.
Why don't you come home and see them?
Listen, Mr. Webster, you know, one thing that I don't think that's been publicized so much has been the whole ordeal that I've gone through since being here, you know, and the garbage that's been laid on me since I've been here.
Would you rather have skipped the whole thing and led a normal life?
What is a normal life? I'd really like to know
A
that.
normal life in normal society and
Call society normal right now, but that's another question for debate, I think. We can have a long discussion about that one. But what I'd really like to say, and I'd really like the people of Vancouver and the people that are listening to this to really understand and really see what has happened. And how, in one sense, I'm not so much angry at my parents, but angry at the people that have misused them. And the people that have taken thousands of dollars from them.
Well, be angry at me too, Michael, because I think that you've been misused by the Unification Church.
I think I'd like to ask any parent in Vancouver right now what they would do to it, how would they respond to this?
I can't judge your state of intellect or your state of mind on a telephone call. Mr. Porter arranged for you to call. I think the story is quite clear, and I'm kind of heartbroken that I've subjected you to this morning, Steffichis.
No,
Webster?
that's fine.
I'm talking to your mother and father now who are here. I do apologize
Can
for
you
this.
hear us, Michael?
I can hear you.
We miss you.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Why don't you come up and see your parents? Are you free to come and see them anytime you want?
Free to come and see him anytime I want.
Well, now you're a follower of a man whom you regard as the Messiah, and charity is surely one of the basic tenets and understanding and compassion of your church, is it not?
It is, but
Is it?
it is true, but you must realize the damage has been done in his relationship with his
Would you
parents.
not suggest it could be repaired?
Mr.
I
Webster?
very much hope so.
Would you bring him up to stay with his parents
I
for a little while?
can't bring him to do
Would you
anything.
recommend it?
Yes, I would do that.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Jack, for a second,
Yes.
please. I'd really like to, for people to understand why I'm not going to come up and visit my parents right now on the basis of what happened the last time that they came to visit me.
On the deprogrammers.
Yeah. Now tell me, would you do this to your son?
I'm not
Would you
going.
take,
We've
either-
already gone through that with Martin Porter about the pills and the drug state that you feel you were in for some time. And I'm
Not in the
going.
drug state because I spit the drugs out, but there was drugs there.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go through that with your mother and father sitting here heartbroken over your choice of a strange kind of life which neither they nor I can understand.
Mr. Webster, I invite you,
Do you know a boy called Philip Rogers?
if you're very sincere about it, I'd check it out.
I'd love to come down there myself one of these days and look around. Because are there any blacks in your house?
What?
Any black Americans or Canadians?
Sure.
Oh. Maybe I will go down and check it out one of these days.
Mr. Webster, I think
Maybe
this
I'll
is
become
such
a Moonie.
controversial issue, and I think since the people of Vancouver are being heartbroken about it,
No, I'm sorry, Michael. I'm dead set against you in this thing because I feel that you have been subjected to brainwashing techniques.
well, I'd say that my parents may have been subjected to brainwashing techniques too.
Well, there's...
Anytime that some person can tell my parents, any parents, that they should tie their child up, put ether over their face, and lock them in a hotel room for 5 days, there's got to be something going on, Mr. Webster.
I'd have done it myself.
Michael?
You know, as much
Michael,
as
your
it's
mother's...
heartbreaking for my parents to
Michael.
think that now, what do you think it was like
Michael.
5 days in a hotel room?
Yeah,
Michael?
Subjected to...
Your mother's talking to you, Michael.
Michael, do you ever realize how desperate we were when we did that?
Must have been very desperate, Mother.
We
You
were.
must have been very desperate not to trust me.
Hold
Michael.
on. Don't go away. Do you want to say anything else to him?
Don't talk about trust, honey.
Yeah, I think
Hold on. Take a break. That was difficult.
Okay. And we love you and miss
Oh,
you, Mike.
shut up, Dougie. Only got 6 minutes. 6 minutes, seconds.
You know, that's the whole point.
Certainly I'll bring it out in the program to Martin Porter. He said to me, do you want to keep Michael Steffich on the phone? And I said, no. Gives him too much of an edge. I don't know how badly he's been brainwashed.
Yeah, but the thing is this, you don't want to hear our side. Most of this program you're trying to talk faster and faster so you can say as much as possible, and you don't really let me speak, like you really didn't let him speak either.
All you want to speak about is the theocratic philosophy of Sun Myung Moon.
Why not? It's a very beautiful thing, and if you studied it, you'd make up your own mind on that, and you would see for yourself. Because this is saying something really important. The moment we're living in history, how God has worked through history, and what is happening today. What was the deeper meaning of Jesus' life and death?
That doesn't seem to fit in with what I know about the Moonie's behaviour to young Canadians.
How were you informed of all of this?
By ex-Moonies.
We've talked about the Steffages.
By Steffages.
Who informed them about Unification Church? What was their source of information? Can't you see the breakdown of the relationships? Because since they heard all these things, they made up their own mind based on that and not what was truly taking place.
All right, I'll give you
this is the question.
I'll give you some facts I truly believe in the Moonie's Church. The strange man, Sun Myung Moon, appeared from the east, the Far East, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we have large numbers of youngsters in a cult who go about with a phony front story, not identifying themselves, and pick up susceptible middle-class young youngsters.
This is your opinion.
No, it's a fact. That's not an opinion.
Our Creative Community Project was founded by Reverend Moon, was founded by our church, but there are many, many people in it that have no relationship religiously with us at all. Therefore, it's not called Unification Church. We have no front groups. We have many different organizations formed for different purposes. We live the spirit of the teaching, but it is not the teaching per se.
And all this garbage about kids living in trucks 20 hours a day is lies.
I don't believe anybody can keep on going 20 hours a day for very long.
You think it's all lies?
I don't believe it's possible.
You don't
like
do
you
it in
say,
Canada.
4 hours sleeping at night. You can't. I would try it yourself. I don't believe you can live continually sleeping 4 hours a day. This is a question of religious intolerance, and don't let's forget what history teaches about it. History would be without one of its greatest saints, St. Francis of Assisi, if there had been deprogrammers in that time. And how about St. Thomas Aquinas, who was shut up with a whore by his brother in a tower to make him change his religious faith? And how about your own church, John Knox, and all the difficulties he went through? And how his good friend who trained him so much, Wishart, got burnt as a heretic because he wasn't Catholic.
My church believes in free will. I'll tell you, if freedom of religion is now being used to destroy the very freedom it was designed to protect, tacit acquiescence is writing off of freedom of human will. That's the danger of people like Moonie, with his mass cult and his mass millions and his mass monies.
You have made a statement that they are quite intelligent people. Mrs. Steffage also said they're above average, his son is above average student. And they can think for themselves. And why are they in Unification Church if we work such long hours and work so hard? Because they mean to stay there. This Maybrick person you're going to bring on the program said that we also have Nobel laureates and professors, many intellectuals that go along with this. Why? Because they're so stupid? They never would have got to be teaching in universities or have Nobel Prizes and so on if that was the case. They know what they're doing.
You know as well as I do, and I'm an observer of the social scheme, that in the affluence of the post-Second World War, we've created a type and manner of person who is rootless and idealistic. And they look and they're attracted to all kinds of strange organizations, such as, for instance, Scientology, such as, for instance, that other one, I forget what you call it, the cybernetic cult. And you seem to be able to take people of better than average basic IQ who are confused in the world today and mold them into a dangerous cult.
I don't accept this. People are looking today, possibly as never before. They're looking for something better, and if they find it, they stay. And if they don't find it, they go. People come and go from all different groups and religions. And I'm sure even from this television studio, people come and go. People get disillusioned and go elsewhere.
Hold your breath, Martin, for a moment. We're behind on breaks. We're going to take a break and come up with the Mayberry thing and get back to practical aspects of the Moonies. I mustn't let Martin Porter get away from me with his philosophical talk. I was going to say jazz, but that would be rude, about Sun Myung Moon. So let's go back to a clip from one of the deprogrammers, whom, of course, he says is really basically, my words, evil person to take money from good little Moonies.
You should die rather than leave the group. We'd even had, at some point, suicide training back in 1976. And so, yeah.
A la Guyana?
Different. It was that if your parents took you to deprogram you, or if you thought about leaving, you should die rather than leave, because to leave was worse than death. So death was a lot lighter sentence.
You telling me the truth?
Yes, the honest truth.
It's a fact.
They showed us how to do it. A nurse showed us how to do it.
How much money were you raising when you were a bookkeeper in whatever it was in Texas?
In Texas, we would make anywhere between $100,000 to $250,000 profit a month.
You're
That
joking.
No,
How many Moonies?
50, and that's after we paid all our expenses.
You mean 50 little slaves?
Yes, exactly.
How much money has Moon got?
Millions. I mean, I couldn't even tell you. I know that they make approximately $1.5 million a week in the United States.
How many Moonies are there in the United States?
Only about 5,000, maximum.
They're now proselytizing in small towns in British Columbia here and selling flowers and doing the candy and the usual thing.
The most money to be made is in Canada, because people don't know about the Moonies. The easiest recruits are Canadians.
I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if you were keeping the money for yourself to go on a drunk or something, would it? But you're not.
It would make more sense.
You basically take that money back and you count it up and you hand it over to somebody like yourself, and you'll go at the bank and buy a money order and send it where?
We send it to the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity, bank account, Chemical Bank,
Just
New
a
York.
minute. The Holy Spirit Association for the
Unification of World Christianity, bank account, Chemical Bank, New York.
The Holy Spirit Association for World Christianity, Chemical Bank, New York. Am I not entitled to be querulous and skeptical when a girl like Maybury tells me $250,000 a month from the proceeds of what she calls the little slaves? Is that true or is that not true?
I have no idea how much money these people raised.
Why not?
It is true that they are raising money and they're asking people to raise, donations and so on. Well, it's their business. I know our figures here in Canada, and it's public knowledge what our income is and how it's spent.
What is it? Well, first, let's finish with that one first of all. Have you no knowledge of the income of the church in the United States?
No, none at all. It's not. Well, it's their business, not my business. It must be public knowledge in the States too.
Where does it go?
It goes to develop all of our different projects all over the place.
And your projects are what?
Well, there's all sorts of
Proselytizing.
educational projects. There's all sorts of different projects. So I think it's should be examined. It's public knowledge where the money is spent.
But what did you
We
raise?
have to declare all our income and expenses every single year to the provincial government as well as the federal government. There's no mystery or secret about this.
Tell me the figures for Canada.
Last year, there was a question of $621,000. And that to support the whole of our activities nationwide is not a very big sum of money.
But all raised by donations.
By donations of many very different
peanuts
people.
or whatever. Is that right?
Donations of very many different people.
But by offering little things in effect for sale, by begging for money.
It's not a sale. We talk about ideals, and if they want to donate, they donate. It's a free society. If they don't want to give, friends as before. But let me get back to that other allegation on suicide training. It's absolute affront to anybody to say we have suicide training or anything like this. Jim Jones was a Marxist. He was a Marxist, and he entered the ministry because he was a Marxist to destroy that paper idol, as he put it. Anybody who has no hope of anything better might think of committing suicide. But we have absolutely no training like this. It's an affront. And if anybody leaves our church, it's up to them. They come and they go. But to commit suicide rather than leaving is an affront, I think, also.
Do you tell people that if there is nothing better, commit suicide?
No, absolutely not. I think God gave us life, and it's not up to us to shorten our life. It's a God-given thing, life. Someone may not have found a purpose in life, but it doesn't mean he can terminate his life. We have no right over ourselves and over our life. But I think our purpose in life is to find the will of God and do something about it.
How did you start in the Moonie business? Where?
I started in Italy about 15 years ago.
Because of what? What were you before that?
What was I before? I came from an Anglican background, and I had very many questions.
Were you proselytized in the street by a young Moonie?
No, I wasn't. In actual fact, I was making a movie in a polymyelitic hospital, and the director and I both heard about Doris, who was teaching at the time, and we came to hear what she said, and it made very much sense to me. And then I invested myself full-time gradually.
How many Moonies in Canada?
There are about 1,000 Moonies in Canada.
You've had a number of recruits recently from Vancouver, haven't you?
Yes, there are lots of people all over.
Flown back from here to there.
They fly this way and that. Why
Do
not?
you pay the fares when they fly back?
Yes, I do.
You shipped 10 back in a plane to some penthouse in Toronto the other day.
It wasn't a penthouse in Toronto, but I did ship them back. They came together because we had a meeting together and exchange experiences
All white?
and training. These happen to be. We have no black. We have no black people
college-
in our Canadian church. I don't think there are any black, but that doesn't. There are very few black Canadians.
You won't find many Jewish people attracted to it either.
Yes,
will
there
you?
are. There are many Jewish people now.
Many Jewish people
yes.
attracted to it. How many Moonies in the United States?
I have no idea. I heard the figure about 30,000.
It ranges between 5 and 37,500. Does Sun Myung Moon not tell you how many adherents he has?
Well, I'm not interested in statistics. To me, numbers.
Hasn't he had parades in places with 1 million people present?
There were about 300,000 in Washington when we had a meeting, but they weren't all necessarily members of Unification Church.
What are his precise predictions about the year 2000 or 1978, 1979? What's going to happen?
I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see, I think, in the year 2000. But we are working to make this world a better place, and we hope the world can become a better place through all of our work.
Once Sun Myung Moon envelops the entire world, we won't have any trouble with politicians, will we?
You see, you put Sun Myung Moon at the center of all of this.
Yes, of course I do.
Many of our members have never even met him,
But
but
he's your
inspired
savior.
by the teaching, because the teaching has brought great change, spiritual change within us, in our relationship with God. This is the important thing, not the personality of Reverend Moon. Many people have never even met him. You must understand this. But the teaching has opened something within them, and they find a deeper relationship with God. And this is very precious to them, just as it was to me.
He can't convince me.
I'm not trying to convince you. I think you should read the teaching and apply it to your life if you're interested and find out for yourself. How can you judge a movement from the outside looking in, particularly when you're fed with all sorts of rubbish?
I think there is a body of provable concrete evidence that you set out to entice a certain type of white youngster, perhaps a college graduate, into your strange organization and use them as collectors for a massive sum of money for a strange man who believes he is Christ himself. Am I wrong?
The point is this. First of all, you cannot necessarily notice a graduate on the street necessarily, or in a home or anywhere else.
But I can pick the types.
The question is this: if people are interested, they come, and if they're not interested, they don't come. Many people come and go all the time. You must understand this.
A couple of basic questions and we're finished. Webster and Martin Porter of Sun Myung Moon Unification Church after the break. What are you laughing at, John?
Well, nothing.
Shut up, Mary. Who's that fella? See one of yours?
No.
Looks like one of yours. He's glassy-eyed.
15 seconds.
He's got a beard, that's why.
Probably one of the new reporters.
Reverend Martin Porter speaks, it turns out, except for the Steffich case, entirely for the Unification Church in Canada. Is that correct?
That's quite correct.
Do any of these abhorrent practices, which I believe take place in the States, happen in Canada?
I'd like you to come and find out for yourself. We talk to people. If they like to come, they come. If they want to continue, they continue. No one's held against their will. Parents, I think, can always find out whether their offsprings, we often say children, but they're all in their 20s and 30s and 40s. They can find out from me where they are if they want to.
Will it happen to me at Vancouver Airport or to young people to be invited to come to a family for dinner without proper explanation?
They might be stopped anywhere and everywhere, and they say, would you like to come over and discuss with us? And if people like to come, they come. But no one is duped. No one is brainwashed. No one is held against their will. If they want to come, they come. And if they like what they hear, they're going to stay. They're going to continue to come and stay.
And no patty cake?
We don't go in for this business, no.
That's all Californian crazies in the Unification Church.
That is what is, I think, I hear from you that takes place in California.
And of course you hear from me too that people who kidnap their children to bring them back to what they regard as normalcy are also surrounded by Moonies who, on one occasion at least, appeared to be violent. Crazy for God, the baseball bat.
Well, they wanted to protect this person, I guess, and I think it's very fair too. If you knew the violence that goes on against these people, I think you should really look into this. the real people should be examined is the practice of deprogramming. And this is something you really haven't got into yet, and you
So
should go.
the biggest enemies of the Sun Myung Moon Church are a bunch of fanatically greedy deprogrammers.
But it's not only Unification Church. People, recently Ted Patrick went to Salt Lake City to deprogram a Mormon. And that's a rather strange place to go and look for Mormons, isn't it? And he's been doing this with many other groups, and so the deprogrammers.
But you say very simplistically, it's not the Steffichis would never have gone after their boy had they not been influenced by greedy deprogrammers who want money.
I don't think they would, because I think if they'd been left alone with him, they could discuss his future, they could discuss his feelings amicably, and that would not have damaged their relationship with him, and presumably his relationship with
Michael Steffich is on the phone again. I'm going to use you on the next segment, but I've got to take one quick commercial break, and I'll be back to you, Michael. Don't go away. Hold on. Webster. Oh, Jesus, Martin, what do we do?
But deprogram is affecting everybody. They've tried to deprogram Catholics. The only people they never tried is John Knox's people.
We can't move us. Perhaps more heat than light this morning, I don't really know. Martin Porter has done nothing to disabuse me of my suspicions of the techniques of the Unification Church. As far as I'm concerned, you're not all that welcome. Freedom of religion is one thing. The way you operate, to my knowledge, in the United States and perhaps in Canada, is another thing altogether.
You started this program with a preconceived idea, and you've just repeated it constantly.
Correct.
What can I do in 1.5 hours?
You know
anyway,
what?
I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. Study the teaching, apply it to your life, make up your own mind.
You know what's right from your point of view. I know what's right from my point of view.
Fair enough.
Michael, you felt it was unfair of me to cut you off.
I do think so. Yeah, I do, Mr. Webster.
Well, I think you've been brainwashed. What else?
Pardon me?
Go on, carry on.
Carry on. Well, yeah. Basically, I just really want to really make a statement about deprogramming, you know, and that the people that are used are like people like my parents, and the relationship that's used is like the relationship I have with my parents, and how the people that deprogram, if they have the great saving thing, you know, if they have the truth, and they could save us all that are in the church, if it was really great, that they would really publish it, you know. And there would be no problem. Everybody could leave and go home, you know, and go to, to Hawaii, and everything would be wonderful. Everybody would be normal, so to speak. But the problem is that they're not into the saving the people in the church. They're into the money. And the money is their motivation. And the people that do it are not people of good character.
Michael, were your parents and are not parents entitled to be concerned and perturbed when a bright young man with a good academic background, who has been free to do as he wishes but is headed towards some kind of career or profession, goes down to San Francisco, just a minute, gets picked up and whistled away into a strange religious organization? Are they not entitled to be truly concerned?
Of course. But that's the concern that we should sort out between ourselves, not when somebody should interject their own opinion and their own garbage. And that's what's happened, and they've been taken for a lot of money. They have been taken by people who don't care about me and who don't care about anybody in the church but care about the bucks.
And they care deeply about you, Michael, and anything you want to say to them? Have I been unfair to you this morning, Martin Porter? Say if I have.
I think, you see, you have a preconceived idea and you're trying to put it across on your airtime. And I think that's a pity.
I think that's the problem, Mr. Webster, all along, is that there's preconceived ideas and they're being put forward in airtime.
Will you guarantee, just a minute, Michael, will you guarantee me that where you have got your peddler's permits, which you have obtained from Vancouver City Halls and elsewhere where required, that you will walk straight up to people and say, we are from the Unification Church?
I've always taught them to say that, and that's usually what they say.
So that we'll know a Moonie when a Moonie speaks to us?
Yes.
And we can use use our own preconceptions?
One of the difficulties is this, that many people talk about Moonies, but when they meet our people that are, as you say, intelligent young people, they don't associate them with Unification Church because of the opinions and image that you people have created.
At least, thank you for coming here this morning, Martin Porter. I wish you well, Mike Steffich. Do call your family direct and consider them as well as yourself and your new mission in life.
But do remember, like attracts like. The reason why intelligent, good people come to our church is because it's a good movement.
You make up your mind, I'll make up mine. After the break. Oh, no, we don't know what we're doing tomorrow.
We don't have to do Maxwell Henderson tomorrow necessarily.
Okay, what do we
Okay.
got? A minute 5? A minute 5 for everything, Jack. 1:05. 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Start over
Not
the butt
tested
shot
my
for
mic.
the first program of this thing. Where is Brian? Never mind. It's okay, okay.
Not doing
I'll go
squares.
straight for camera, first of all.
1 minute and 5 seconds, Jack.
A-type metal chimneys, they were called.
It was very good. It was very dramatic.
Did you kill Pamela for being late? Choose your method of death.
15 seconds. 10.
A special hello to Yellowknife, which joined us on the Annick B this morning. On the Best of Webster, most of you enjoyed the broadcasts very much. We made a botch-up on one rebroadcast. We put on the program about the banning at one time of A-type metal chimneys in these fireplaces. That ban was lifted. After the broadcast of the original program, we got hundreds of calls, all confused about it. The ban was put on A-type metal chimneys, but was later lifted by the Commissioner's office. So for the moment, the metal chimney business has a clean bill of health in the province of British Columbia. No ban in effect. Don't know how that came about. They had to lift some programs out, political stuff,
That's
rebroadcast
right.
for equal time reasons. So we had to slap that one in and didn't have time to put in the lifting of the ban. Tomorrow,
Nothing special
Happy
planned.
New Year.
Same to you.
Nothing special planned.
No.
I'll be here for sure. Tomorrow morning, back with Webster, a new season at 9 a.m. precisely.